All right, everyone. Couple announcements here before we started. One, our chair is not here this evening, so I'm going to call the meeting to order on his behalf. But the first order of business is we're going to need to elect a chair for this evening.
I nominate Kristen.
Second.
No. I have to plug my computer in then.
I brought some paper. If
I
you need
reviewed
some.
the old.
Do you have a paper agenda?
I reviewed the old minutes today, and I saw you were the second in command anyway, so you're in that.
Oh, first you have to see if the vote will pass.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys should not vote for me. Ask Todd what'll happen.
Motion and second for Kristen. Kristen, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
It is yours, Kristen.
All right, so we'll call this meeting to order again at 6:03, and would you mind doing the roll call vote?
Sure. Dassow?
Here.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Zellner? Runge?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
Hertzberg? And Tews.
Here.
First item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from February 16th. Do we have any comments on the minutes, or in lieu of that, a motion to approve?
So moved.
I wasn't here, so I can't approve them.
Second.
All right. Do we need roll call vote, or can we do a voice vote?
Voice.
We'll do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, seeing none, we move on to item number 3, public comment. Any public comment? No? All right, no public comment. So then item number 4 is presentations, and we'd like to welcome you today, and we'll turn the floor over. Thanks for coming to talk to us today.
Yeah, with us is David Weishoff of DCAR, who has opened a new facility in the business park. And from a smaller business perspective, we'd like to talk to you about things from his perspective as a small business owner.
Yeah, so I was invited to speak at this, being a business owner, talking about trying to get employees to work for me and housing that they can live in Wanakee and instead of commuting to Wanakee. And it kind of hits a difficult area. There is no easy fix to this. I applaud you guys for what you're trying to do, but it is a problem. I have one technician who unfortunately had a fire in his building. He had to find a new rental property, and he's in DeForest, so not too far from here. But he did look at the village, and there just wasn't anything for him. If there was, it was going to be more than what he was paying, those types of things. So that one hit really close to home recently, is that, does the village maybe need some more apartments? Yes. What type of apartments are those? I can't tell you. I'm not an urban planner. I can't even 100% tell you if you have enough for the demographics of Wanakee, and you might just need more above and beyond what is acceptable level. But you probably do need more based on personal experience from an employee who was recently scrambling trying to find an apartment complex to move into because he was told his was no longer available almost indefinitely until they rebuild the building. I have a couple guys driving from Poinette and Baraboo. I had a nice young lady who was in Dodgeville, all of which tried and wanted to move closer, maybe rent a place or buy a place. It just really wasn't feasible for what is available in those markets. And I get it, it's Baraboo, it's outside of Dane County. Dodgeville is outside of Dane County. Land values, house values kind of dramatically drop once you get out of Dane County. Personally, we built a house in 2013 in Sun Prairie for what I consider an absolute stupid cheap amount of money in today's standards. Back then it was fairly normal. If I was to sell that house in the current market and move to Wanakee, I'd probably be adding another $200,000 to the cost of that house in order to do it. And that's without an overinflated offer in order to get a house in the current market where people are offering, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 over asking price just to get houses. because they have the expendable income and it doesn't matter to them, or they're pulling out of retirement, or they're doing whatever they can to get that house, even though it may not appraise where it's supposed to. You know, there's lots of avenues there. So me personally, it might never happen, I don't know. But it's definitely an issue. Is it a good issue? Maybe. Is it a bad issue? Maybe. Is everything the way it should be? Maybe. It kind of really depends on the village and how they want to grow and how they want to, I don't know, trying to think of the word. It escaped my mind. Yeah, sorry.
All right, it's all right. Usually we have a little bit of conversation, so is that all right?
Sure, yeah.
All right, cool.
Ask some questions.
Thank you so much. What questions do we have?
Is retention an issue for you?
Yes, the wonderful young lady that I had working for me ended up leaving for a place closer to home. So I have lost employees due to commutes. Trying to hire new people, one of the first questions I always have is, you do realize that we're in Wanakee? And then we talk about where Wanakee actually is. I'm sure people have that same question to some people, you know, on Indeed or wherever anyway, because they just click and they don't even look where it is. But I have had some people say, oh, well, that's a little bit too far of a drive for me. And then, you know, it's difficult. It's kind of landlocked, but out in the middle of nowhere, but it's not really out in the middle of nowhere. When you tell people it's 5 minutes from Madison and 5 minutes, or Middleton, Madison area, or 5 minutes from, you know, the north side of Madison, people are like, oh, really? And then I tell people, yeah, my commute's like 10, 15 minutes from Sun Prairie. It's not that far. It's just, there's a perceived amount of time and a perceived amount of like distance that is unrealistic in people's minds where Wanakee is, I guess. Like, oh, that's too far.
Dave, do you think availability of housing, apartments, I think we're talking about here, or price is a bigger problem, or is it?
I think it's
equal?
both,
Yeah.
honestly. I can't tell you exactly, I don't know exactly how much apartments are in Wanakee. I do know that I've been in conversations with people that they seem extremely high. However, the places that we're talking about are premium apartments, so then again, you're trying to potentially compare apples to oranges. A professional, you know, married couple moving to Dane County from some other place, you know, for a job. They don't know what they want to do yet, if they want a condo, if they want to rent, if they want a house. They don't know the market. So they can pay that overinflated price that some people think for an apartment that has all the amenities and all of these things and is brand new, and you kind of have to pay for that sometimes. I do know Wanakee has some older apartments. I don't know what those go for. I know there was one by our old location. From the outside, it doesn't look like it's very nice. I've never been inside. I couldn't tell you if it's nice or not. It looks like it's from the 70s maybe, the one on Division Street. Is that one affordable? I would have to guess yes. Is it someplace that maybe people might not want to stay for the price? Maybe. Is there enough? Probably not. I don't think anyone has enough apartments going up or vacant at this point in time based on how many apartments are going up. At least where I live in Sun Prairie, where I see it every day.
So part of what we heard in the past from other folks is those folks outside of Dane County live there by choice because of lifestyle. Is it a lifestyle issue, or is it truly economics?
I think it's a little of both. I think he hit it on the head. Some people choose to live out in the middle of nowhere with cheaper rents and or cheaper taxes and cheaper things as a lifestyle to offer them more money for either retirement or fun things or hobbies. They might live to be closer to their hobbies. I know a couple of people, like personal friends, who live up in Adams County 24/7 because it's the lake and it's close to the Dells, and they commute to Madison 4 times a week. With COVID, it wasn't an issue. They were commuting once a week, and now they're pretty much working from home. So, I mean, their commute isn't anything anymore. So they choose to be up there because it's closer to their everyday type of things, and then it's not a vacation anymore. It's a lifestyle. But I think I think you have two different type of people on that one. The ones that choose to and the ones that just can't.
Well, the follow-up question to that would be, let's assume for the moment it's economics. So we say, here's X dollars to move into an apartment or to buy a house. What is that X? So help them with that decision to move from Sauk County to Dane County or Wanakee, Wisconsin.
Oh, gotcha. So it's like,
And I'm not asking for a definitive answer, but that's the concept.
yeah, so it's I'm just gonna say it in one way, it would be like subsidizing the cost of living so that it's equal, and would they still not wanna move to Wanakee? Is that?
Yes, that's it.
I'd have to say that the people that, and this is, I don't know how many people are going to want to move to Wanakee if that's the case, versus where they are, because you're gonna have some people who really like living out in the country or living someplace, a smaller town, and the village isn't that small, and it's not that big. It's kind of a middle child, I would consider. You've got, when I think of small, I think of like Rio, or, really small. You got 2 bars and a church, or,
3 bars in a church.
yeah.
It's grown.
East Bristol, there's another one where if you blink, you're through it type of thing. I think some people choose to live in the country and or to live in these smaller towns or cities or villages or whatever they're called, out of choice. Are you going to get them here by subsidizing anything? Maybe. I can't really answer that one. That would have to be, the problem is most of the people that I've ever witnessed and deal with, so my dad's part of the Columbia County Sporting Alliance. He's actually the president. I'm huge into all of that stuff with him because I get volunteered for it. And one of the biggest fundraisers we do is a game feed. And everyone donates food and everyone does things, and we donate the alcohol for it, and it's a great event. Based on all the people that come to this event, you have a lot of people that probably wouldn't accept it because it's a handout. They're too proud.
Do you think, I think turnover and retention is a challenge for any business these days, regardless of where you're at. But just given the geographic location, do you think you have a harder time with retention than, say, if you were to have picked up and put your operation in Sauk or somewhere outside of Dane County?
Well, I can't answer that personally. There's other avenues that would have been a lot easier by building it someplace other than Wanakee. I can contest that it was hard looked at when I was building, not for employee retention, but for other reasons, other difficulties in the market of Wanakee, which somewhat relates to housing costs in Wanakee. Building costs in Wanakee is also high. I know the larger you are, the more it's going to look like you want to move out and get somewhere where there's a bunch of people who are potentially looking for something closer to home that's very similar to what they're usually doing. And, oh, this is gonna, I hate sounding like, not to stereotype people in small towns or anywhere in rural America, right? But if you have the workers, the high school graduate, no college, who is a factory worker, not by choice, but because of reasons to be, if someplace moved from here, which might be a half hour from where they live, to closer to where they live, they would probably gain that employee from potentially a different factory that they're currently working at. That makes sense without sounding like I'm trying to,
here's
there's no
a
easy way to
question.
say it.
Like building off of what Tricia just said, so there's always the balance between locating where your customers are and locating where your employees are. And right now, when I'm working with different communities across the state, we're really emphasizing, the fact that trying to attract a new business to a town that's already tight in terms of an employment market is maybe not the best way to grow a company. So when you were making the decision to locate here, can you talk a little bit about what your customer base looks like and what your employee base looks like? Who is your ideal employee? Where are your customers, and who are those customers for the most part?
Well, this is going to be very difficult. So my industry specifically stems, the difficulty in my industry in finding employees is a couple-fold. One, high schools have been pushing college for decades now. You have to go to college, you have to go to college, you have to go to college. Skilled trades are worthless. You have to graduate college, blah, da, 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 da. Don't go to MATC or a trade school or any of those things, a 2-year college. Go to a 4-year college. You're not going to accomplish anything unless you go to college, be a doctor or a lawyer, right? That's part of it. So our workforce is difficult anyways because it's usually someone who enjoys doing it. I'm a perfect example of that. I went to a 4-year college, and then I ended up going back to college for a 2-year associate's degree in automotive to make the career go a little bit quicker, essentially. Learn all of the management side of it instead of learning it on the job, learning it in the backside. So I ended up going to college twice before I landed in a career I had. And there's a lot of people in our industry that do that. They go to college because they're forced to, and then they find out that they don't like sitting at a desk, they don't like certain things. Then they end up going back to college for 2 years. And then we have some people who end up just doing it out of high school. But there's so few of them that we already have a lack of labor because it's a skilled labor. It's no different than electricians, plumbers, HVAC, IT, you name it. We're pretty much the same in our industry. In fact, we're kind of a mix of all of them. We don't just need to know how to wire up your house. We don't need to just know how to hook up an air conditioner. We don't just need to know how to fix your toilet. We need to know all of those things because a car has all of those things. And it takes a special type of person to do it after getting through the rigmarole of growing up in college and figuring out what you want to do in your life. And then you have to figure out, okay, where am I living and where do I want to travel to on top of it? So much more difficult than, say, like potentially a grocery store or potentially even a manufacturing job or an IT company or a plumber or HVAC company. It's so much more difficult to find employees than some of these other places who are even still having trouble finding employees. Just because of the skill set that's needed. And it's a hard, difficult, dirty, nasty job. I mean, 90 degrees and humid, and you got a 120-degree engine bay, and you're bent over replacing spark plugs, burning yourself on the exhaust manifold. You know, it takes a special type of person who likes to torture themselves on a daily basis to want to do what we do. Ugh. I don't even know if I answered your question.
So, you did. Yeah, I have it. Other have it. So is when you chose to locate here, was it because there was a lack of car facilities? Was it because there is a customer base that's close by?
Sure, yep.
What
All right,
played into
so
that
part of
factor?
it, the employee, yep, that part I didn't cover. So, a little bit of history of DCAR. I started a long time ago. Moved to Wanakee in 2015 because I heard that the Meffords were selling their automotive division. Purchased all their equipment, purchased the customer list because it was a fully running company at that point in time, and leased from them for several years until we built our current building. I moved to Wanakee because of the potential clients in Wanakee. I mean, this is going to sound bad again, but Wanakee has a reputation of having people that have money. So having something that is service-based and not dealing with potentially people who can't afford to fix something is a plus. It's not the only reason, but it was, you know, it's a plus.
Running a business.
There's a reason why. There's a reason why about a month ago, Christian Brothers came across the table for an auto repair shop in Wanakee. There's a lack of them here. Is that a good thing for me currently? Yes. Am I worried about it? No. But moving to Wanakee was more of there was something to purchase, a decent company to purchase. The clientele of Wanakee is attractive. Employment didn't really affect it much. I was purchasing a business that already had employees. Two of those employees, one was out of DeForest, lived in DeForest. One, again, was out of Dodgeville and drove from Dodgeville every day. They chose to live in Dodgeville. It's hard because employment was never really on my radar when moving the business to Wanakee. It was more on my radar of...
Radar 7 or 8 years ago, well, and especially 10 years ago, which seems like...
And
it was
our
during
market wasn't
the
nearly as
recession.
bad then either.
Yeah.
You know, technicians were more of a dime a dozen. You could pick and choose the ones you wanted. You could hire one, you could fire one, you could pick up another one, you could fire them, you could pick up another one and fire them because they weren't what you wanted. Now you're just like everyone else. Oh, it's a body, right? Like, not to sound horrible, but it's at least someone, you know, there. Yeah, they don't show up on time. Yeah, they take a lot of time off. Yeah, they have their own issues, but you're okay with dealing with it because you have to in order to keep a business going in today's market. It sucks. Don't have to worry about that now. We have a really good crew now, but it really wasn't on my radar until the new building, and the new building just had more issues altogether of one, finding land, two, being able to build a building within budget so that, you know, we don't go bankrupt, essentially, right? And three, employment was another one. Like if we did move to, say, DeForest or the west side of Madison or a little closer to the north side or somewhere that was, you know, Westport maybe, is it going to be easier? Is it going to be easier to get employees? Is it going to be cheaper to build? Is it going to be cheaper in general? Is it going to fit the budget better? That's where the employment thing, I think what you're asking me is more hit home, is would it be easier to get employees if I wasn't in Wanakee? Potentially. but it's so difficult in our market, I don't even think that would matter at this point in time. Maybe in 5 years it'd matter.
Thanks. I think we've got time for one more question. Anyone's got? We can't keep you all night.
Oh, you're
Otherwise we
good.
would, yeah.
You're good. I told the
Yeah.
wife I won't be home till approximately 7, so.
I thought Christian Brothers was a brandy.
It's a, it's like a Midas, a Meineke, or a Carex. It's a franchise auto repair that really only wants to do the gravy stuff and doesn't really do anything but the gravy stuff. And they'll tell you, not to down them, but they'll tell you need something when you don't. It is what it is. Could Wanakee use one? Yeah, probably. Is it gonna hurt business? Yeah, probably. Am I worried about it? No. We'll adapt.
Others? No?
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We appreciate it very much for you taking the time, and especially on one of the nice spring nights, the few nice spring nights we've had.
No worries. I like doing this. I tend to ramble. Todd knows.
Great information. Yeah.
My mind moves 1,000,000 miles an hour, and it's hard for me to get a single thought out without going off on another tangent.
Well, we appreciate you sharing your thoughts and your time with us very much. Yeah, thanks.
I hope it's helpful.
It is. It
gave you
is.
some good information without not enough good information.
As we're trying to figure out kind of where the balance is and what our employers are facing, it's really helpful. Thank you.
Again, I applaud you. I wouldn't want to be in your seat trying to figure out how to do what you're trying to do. Very difficult task.
We're chipping away. Yeah, I don't know how much progress we're making, but we're chipping away at it. So, yeah, so thanks. So with that, I think, thank you very much. And I think we'll turn it over to you, Tim, if that's okay,
Sure.
for reports.
Yep, my report is very brief. Thanks, David, very much for
Yeah.
coming in. The only thing I really have to report is some recent action by the legislature. You remember a few months ago, several months ago, we talked about a suite of bills that were on the docket, and one of them actually passed, AB 607, that related to the creation of a workforce housing rehabilitation loan program. So that has become Wisconsin Act 221, went into publication just less than 2 weeks ago on April 9th. So that's through WHEDA, WHEDA. So that's a loan program through that agency and their member banks. I don't know what the status of the fund balance is or the extent to which that's even been created yet, but that's, the ink is kind of still drying on that one.
Do you have just a synopsis of what the program's all about?
Sure, so there's qualifying criteria for eligibility, and there's essentially 3 of them. The applicant's household annual income does not exceed 120% of area median family income for the county in which the housing is located. Applicant's home is a single-family residence that the applicant occupies that was constructed prior to 1980. And then number 3, applicant agrees to repay the loan, including all interest, upon the applicant selling or otherwise transferring title to residence to another person, or upon applicant or his or her family vacating the residence. So those 3 things.
And what's the criteria for use of the dollars? If I went and said, hey, I want some money,
So that you'd have to go through a member bank that WHEDA works with to
Yeah.
apply for that loan, and then they'd say, okay, well, these are the criteria in order for you to be eligible for that program.
Tim, is it,
Purchase of the home or rehab? Let's say you found one that needed to be rehabbed, is it?
Yep, may make a loan to a person applying for the loan to pay for the cost of eligible rehabilitation to the applicant's home,
Okay.
if all apply, those three things.
And they don't have to pay this loan back as long as they live there?
Right, not until,
So I could do that, and 40 years later, I keel over, and that's when my estate has to pay back.
or is
the
it
loan.
like forgivable after so many years?
I think it's repayable. I didn't see anything in the text about loan forgiveness. There may be a provision in there, but I think it's at the time of sale, and whether it's 1 year or 40 years later.
Did it talk about any kind of cap on the amount?
Again, no, they have the authority, WHEDA has the authority to create that fund, and there's nothing in this act that speaks to the dollars.
Okay.
I'm wondering, for the purposes of we get this information and then the hurdle is getting into the hands of people who could use it. I'm wondering if there isn't some way that we could talk with Roberta at the paper about maybe getting a housing notes section that we could occasionally publish. That when stuff like this becomes available, we could put a little note in the paper, and it's maybe not a regular feature, but people know that if they see housing notes there, that there's something that they could pay attention to that might help them. What do you guys think of that? I don't know if I'm probably not following Robert's rules by suggesting this, but
Part of my report, I guess, that's so there's no,
The answer is Roberta might.
yeah.
And Dave and I and David Candy see her once a week.
Do you?
so one of the,
Hey, we got an idea.
one of the pieces with this, I think that would be helpful is to find out the degree to which those member banks, area member banks, are up to speed on this and where this is within their loan portfolios, before we, kind of push it out there to
Yeah.
the public.
Because this loan would be in addition to their main mortgage on the house, probably. Yeah. So
Yeah, repairing or
that's-
replacing a heating system, electrical, plumbing system, roof, window, or exterior door, repairing foundation, repairing or replacing insulation or siding. Those
So
are
they're
those.
probably thinking more in the line of 5 to 15, 20,000 kind of numbers.
Well, in
You're
today's
not-
market,
You're not
could
talking
be.
a $100,000 kind of
Yeah.
renovation of a house.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's all I have as far as my report in terms of updates. So if you'd like,
Excellent.
I can introduce the next agenda item, which we started
Please.
at the previous meeting. And so, of course, with us to lead that discussion is Todd. And so we're going to continue our discussion where we left off last time in terms of identifying and starting to group areas. So what I did, and included in your packet, and I printed off copies if you need them. I'll just, if you want to grab one and
Take
pass
one,
that
just
down.
put notes on.
We created those topic areas, and those are going out for you. And what we'd like to do is refine those to a greater degree. So there were several that they kind of self-sorted. Two kind of jumped off near the top of the list, and then there were several that had kind of 2 comments and a few that had 1. So in that context, I guess, Todd, if you want to take it over from
Yeah,
there.
and I'll clarify that I'm not leading, I'm just facilitating. You are leading. The question that was posed last time, if you recall, is, what do you want to do with the money? That's basically the question that we posed. And I thought you all did a really nice job of following instructions for the exercise and participating to a point where we attempted to answer the question. You all participated in answering the question. And that was the extent of time we had for that meeting. With a half hour left today or so, I think we can continue to step a little bit forward. I do have one first question that I'd like to get out of the way, and this kind of relates to the fact that you're sitting here with limited funds today. What do you recall what the balance is in the Affordable Housing Fund?
368, 568, something.
Okay, that's not helping.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm sorry.
It's certainly not unlimited. It's in I thought it was around 200,000-ish.
3, okay.
Plus or minus. And also, we're looking at creation of new programs. The question is, how many things do you want to create? How many programs do you want us to build? Do you want to do one program really, really well, as best as we can? Or do you want to look at a modest-sized laundry list to provide opportunities? If the answer is, hey Todd, hey Tim, let's get started in this with the one that we try to do really well, that's going to focus our conversation today differently than if you want to vet out multiples. And I'm okay with either. It's a question that you have to lead us with.
Would another angle on that question be, how many people do you want to touch? How many families do you want to impact with this money? If it's a lot, then it's a different criteria, or if we could get 50 new families in town working here, that's a good number, or is it 200? Or is it, enough to fill the Hy-Vee?
Well,
That I think is also a qualifier with the money we have and what we would do with it.
well, that's sort of almost, that's a totally new question we could have posed before what we did initially, which was who in the public, what is the population that, that you want to focus on? That was different than how we let out last month, or 2 months ago now? 2 months. We let out with, well, how would you like to use the funds to support the community?
And it was after that meeting that I thought, well, that's dependent upon how many you want to touch, how, is it a small amount for many people, or is it a large amount for a few?
But Jeff, is your question one of workforce housing versus affordable housing? In other words, I mean, kind of playing off with your words a little bit, is it that you're trying to create enough people to fill Hy-Vee and to live here, as opposed to allowing people to work here, fix their homes, whatever it is we're trying to do with the existing stock?
I'm not implicating either one of those or advocating for either one of those, but I think it's a question we have.
Because growth is a different issue, and that's why I asked if you're looking for growth, now you get into the schools, you get into other issues as well, if you're looking to create growth. And I'm not saying it's wrong, because I think from my perspective, workforce housing is obviously, or I should say probably where I'm looking as opposed to affordable housing. It'd be nice to have people work here and live here. I guess that's my focus. So,
That's my focus also, obviously, as a business person.
So we're to the question of, going back to the original question, one program or a modest slate of several programs?
Right, and keeping in mind that we're just starting here. It, I guess I'm sort of sharing a bias, but to get started with something and see success in it will enable you to prove the program, prove its worth, and be positioned well to take on step 2 then at some point in future. But to go down multiple roads at once and sort of not do as good as we could have done with one, I think would reflect poorly. So,
I think the conversation seemed to go, the last time we were all together, is, if we tried to do that, we were helping many people, are we really helping raise the bar for everybody? Is it really having an impact? Where if we were focusing it on where there wasn't other resources being allocated, you've got your new developments and they're all kind of investing in their parks and their neighborhoods and their sidewalks. And so what's that area of the community that's somewhat in need? And I think that's why there's probably more in this like housing stock category than in other divisions, because that just felt like the one where there wasn't really a good state program or federal program for that matter, or something that there's not a special lending program to address, where it just felt like that was the gap area in the conversations.
I don't think we're going to impact the employee situation with this program. I can tell you that, I started my business in 1975, and I had people living in Poynette and, Mazomanie and all over the place. So it's kind of a given, not everybody wants to live where they work. So I don't know that, we can focus on that with this program. Number one, I don't think the dollars aren't there to have any kind of major impact. We're not going to change the cost of a house in Wanakee by $100,000 with anything that we have. So I think, from my perspective, looking at it, I would say, if we can keep our housing stock from deteriorating, that's a positive addition to the community, because that is going to impact the lower end of the economic strata the most. I mean, probably none of us in here are gonna apply for, you know, a loan to do a, you know, $20,000 fix-up to our house. So that's my perspective, is that where we should target.
From my perspective, I know how hard it is to bring programs online and get them going and going well, so I would say we do figure out what our easiest quick win is so that we can build from success. I have long wanted to have the amount of money that would allow us to do a land bank and then send out an RFP for another LIHTC project. I don't think we're gonna be there for another 5 or 6 years, so I think Jeff, you and I probably are kind of like thinking in terms of like, how do you attract more workforce through a project like that? Before we get to that, let's build our capacity on running some of these programs and have some successes so that when we do get a bigger pot of money together from TIF or from, who knows, ARPA grants or whatever it's going to be down the road, that we've built some experience both as a committee and also that we've kind of practiced doing what we want to do well before we take on a big project like that.
And your reference to the years, the 5 or 6 years, that's all about the timing on when we're expecting TIF closures.
Yeah, yeah,
And that presupposes that there will be an extension of the TIF for 1 year
It
that funds
does.
this.
yeah.
I know you all know that, I know that, I wanted to make sure that the folks
Yes.
watching on TV understand that's one of our challenges, is the timing of the funding source.
Yeah, and we won't assume that happens, we'll assume that that's a possibility.
Right.
And if we can make a good case for it, that public opinion and the board will vote to allow that to happen, because we've presented a good case.
And we're
But just
poised
planning
and
for that
ready then.
possibility. Yes,
Poised and
exactly,
ready when it does happen.
exactly, so the folks at home watching don't.
And what's fortunate for you as a CDA, as we work on these you have time to to assemble what that program may be. You can set the stage. So the village board doesn't deal with what was a difficult process. When we did approve this last time, was what are we gonna use it for?
Yeah.
We had the one known source with Co-Nesre, but what about the rest of it? And that caused, a tinge of hesitancy in the approval process, because there was unknown with how the dollars would be used.
Yeah.
So maybe what we can do, Kristen, if it's okay with you, with the whole group,
Yeah.
is talk about the low-hanging fruit from the list that you created last time. Clearly, there was, in our exercise, there was one commonality almost amongst all participants, and we grouped them under the first list of bullets there. And I guess I'm gonna suggest that let's talk about that and see where it goes. The first step, and I let you in on this last time, is to take the attempt that all of you made at identifying what you meant on your little slips, and decide together exactly what you mean. So we're essentially going to try to take these 6 bullets and, for lack of a better word, wordsmith that into a single header. So what I need to do is ask the 5 of you to work together. I was thinking of maybe separating into 2 groups if we had 2 projects. We'll just do it with the 5 of you. You need to work together to rework those 6 bullets into one summary statement of how you desire to spend the affordable housing funds.
Are we writing a statement that states the outcome or the task? Because some of these are written as tasks, like refurbish homes or improve have an outcome of having more houses available that are upgraded.
That's gonna be the next step. What I first want you to do is create the label for me. Create a
Like the
label.
program name.
Create a program name, a program
Okay.
label
Okay.
that you are comfortable with, which then we'll jump from.
I've got a name for it.
Oh, good.
Throw it out, and I'm happy to take notes
Okay.
and,
Wanakee Repair and Maintenance Loan Fund. That kind of, I think, cover a lot of what's in here?
Oh, that's where we have to, is it a loan or a grant?
Good
It's the only
question.
question I have on that.
Good question.
Can you say it again, Kristen?
Tricia, I missed what you said.
I said, is it a loan or a grant?
The Repair and Maintenance Loan Grant Fund. Because, good point, right? I mean, it really, it's easier
Why not just call it the Wanakee Housing Fund?
fund,
Housing Improvement Fund.
housing improvement fund, that's
Improvement, I
better.
think, because you want to have something in there that's saying it's existing, not,
Right, true.
All right,
Not
I'm
building
trying to,
now.
I'm trying to grab the ideas as they come out, and we'll work this through. Dave, you suggested what? Housing
Wanakee
improvement.
Housing Fund, and they added improvement to my statement. Wanakee
Oh.
Housing Improvement.
Housing improvement, all right, we'll assume Wanakee's in front of all of them, so I
Yes,
don't have to
yeah.
spell the name of the village too many times.
I like that one.
Okay. As you look at the 6 bullets,
The only other word I would have maybe thought about, but I am actually retracting in my own mind, is adding the word aging in there, because that could be worked out in the details.
the age of the housing is the issue, right?
Yeah,
The-
yeah, so that can just be one of the criteria in the program, it doesn't need to be the title, I think, I like the second one.
Okay, keep that in your head, because the
Okay.
next exercise is gonna
Is
involve,
it aging or is it a function of income?
Well, again, that's a
Age.
detail underneath that.
This is like, I'm working again.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It is, yeah.
This is your work.
Hey, I retired last week.
Congratulations.
Let's do this, let's go with that, all right, pick your poison there. Let's go with Housing Improvement Fund. Now, you've got some sheet notes in front of you with those 6 bullets. You know what some of, what you and Cynthia and your colleagues are sort of thinking. Now, what each of you are gonna do individually, and we'll take, I'll give you, 10 minutes, we'll see how long you go, is, and no looking at your partner, that you weren't here for that instruction last time,
Kristen here.
on as many slips as you care to use, and we have more.
One per.
One per, write down an element of this program, and that, an element might be what you'd like to do with it, who might qualify. Maybe the element is a question that you think is complicated, and you wanna, and you just wanna put it out there. What I'm doing is building the litany of ideas that Tim is going to work through to try to draft program elements for you to then think about at your next meeting. So what I need you to help us do, what help Tim have, is the stuff in your brain that might relate to a program like this. It can be who, what am I missing? And the what ifs. All right? So 1 per idea.
One page.
One page per idea.
And if you
And
need
we're-
more, we have more.
We're gonna do this, just so you know, we're gonna do the same process we did last time, is, we're gonna go down the row and everybody will report out on their idea, we'll put it up on the form, there's gonna be duplicates, and we're gonna start to see trends as a result. And to ease everyone's concern, no idea is a bad idea. In fact, some of the more crazy things might help us decipher. We need background music.
Like a Jeopardy theme song right now.
You're looking that up? Okay.
Were you gonna get something? Go for it. Did you see this, Nyla? The list? Let's see. Do you have one of these too? Do you have one of those?
There may be an extra down at
It is a full problem.
Yeah, it shows this.
that?
That's just this summarization.
I just want to.
I didn't know we touched on it.
Okay, thanks.
Are you able to pause the button? This doesn't need to be part of the meeting, right? Yeah, why don't you pause it? Good job on you. So the task that you'll enjoy now, Al, welcome to the party. Pick one, read it off, and we'll just take a moment to make sure everybody understands your point. Maybe there'll be a follow-up question to clarify, and then we'll put it up, and then we'll complete this. I'm sure we'll find things that are gonna be common, that's gonna be points of emphasis for us to be certainly attentive to as we work through potential program design.
Do you want us to say, like, if we have the same one, just we get that out of the way at the same time?
Yeah, if you have the same one, no, actually, we're gonna have everybody read them.
Okay.
You can report it, and what I'll do is I'll connect it, like I did last time, I'll connect it to we'll make a string out of them. So Al, you're first.
You want me to just read them as I have them listed?
Just one.
Just
Do
one.
And then we'll go.
It's a lightning round kind of
Lightning,
thing.
yeah.
I'll come back to you.
Interior versus exterior. Do interior products qualify, or is it just exterior?
Okay, understood?
Yep.
We're not answering the question, we're just getting the ideas up. So, can you understand?
Yeah, I can.
Thank you.
You cannot publish this.
No, it's only being recorded for, oh, I'm sorry, Keith, I didn't check. You're good? All right. Okay,
It's copyrighted.
all right. Kristen?
All right, so first of all, I have accomplishes. It accomplishes easing housing costs for those with lower incomes who own houses.
Okay, so I'll follow up Kristen's
Yep.
suit and go with the goals first, or improves aging housing stock. And I rewrote it, reduces blight in older areas of the community, but it's the same thing.
And you can tell me if you think it connects with something that's already up here that'll help me put these things together.
Prevent greater polarization based on income/housing caused by blighted neighborhoods.
Okay, I'm just gonna look around, look around the room.
It kind of bridges the two that we've got up there.
Is there understanding? Prevent polarization,
Community polarization based on you're having neighborhoods that keep degenerating, and, you know, with that comes all kinds of, I mean, you have enough problems with economic differences with people, and you really don't need to have, you know, you got kids going to school looked down on because they happen to live on Second Street or whatever. You know, that's the kind of thing I'm thinking.
This one ties with it.
okay, go ahead.
So I'll read my statement, then I got to make one other comment with it. It says, accomplish neighborhoods to be cool to live in. And I don't know if any of you have been to Evansville, but a group of 7 of us are hiking the Ice Age Trail, and we hiked, the trail went winding through Evansville. Aged housing, I don't know what incented them, if they have a program or not. Everybody was painted, the yards were all great, and it wasn't just 1 or 2 blocks of nice old houses. We walked through the whole, the trail kind of led us through the whole time. I got it.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yeah. I wished I would have taken pictures because I kept going and I started thinking about this, but we were already through it by the time it started sinking to mind. What a great feeling I have walking through this. And there were old cars, but there wasn't junk in the yards. There was landscaping that had been done.
I think that does relate to
I think it does.
maintaining balance. Yep, I think that relates, yeah, okay. We're gonna keep going, just like this.
I have loan or grant or mix.
That's a question,
That's a question, yeah.
okay? Clear?
Challenge, what's the administrative burden?
So sort of, as we put this together, you want us to essentially calculate staff requirements, resources.
Staff require, and if there's the Dane County Housing Fund has, would they have the capacity to operate it on our behalf for a small fee as opposed to staff time? Like, what would the trade-off be between, from doing it ourselves versus putting our fund with another fund, but dedicated to Wanakee people? I don't know,
Okay.
thinking creatively about how do you ease costs?
Must be used for structural or mechanical elements of the home, for example, not landscaping.
Okay. Just for kicks, does anybody think this should be used for exterior elements like landscaping?
I got a ticket for that same thing.
It can't be.
That it should or shouldn't be?
Should. I have a
Okay.
should.
That's fine.
That's right, I was just wondering.
A lot of landscaping can be done without much cost, though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's, if you want to keep up your property,
I would use with it.
that's a somewhat mindset, you know?
It creates.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we'll vet that at.
Mine ties in, grants for low income, the median or below, and loans above the median. And, but, you know, the qualifier grants, obviously, there has to be some kind of restriction tie-in, you know, that it isn't, you give them a grant for 10 grand and
Okay, so you're
8
suggesting
months
an
later.
income qualifier that establishes eligibility for grant versus loan, okay? Is that, do we have something up here where we talk about grant question loan?
I've got one in front of me.
Oh, right there, yes, good, thank you.
Kristen mentioned it.
That relates enough there. This is the opposite to the land, so I'll put that one there upside down. Okay.
Back to me again?
Yep.
I got, no, it's me.
Oh, you did the landscaping one.
Oh.
Sorry.
Approval of project and inspection of results. What qualifies versus what doesn't qualify, under what criteria?
Would you say that, is that gonna relate to the administrative burden part, or is that different?
It is different.
Different? Yeah.
It's
That's all.
just like the
I'm
building
not questioning,
inspector.
I just wanted to make sure I address it correctly.
There should be a single note, but I wrote it into income qualified and asset limited. So I think you can, if you engineer your retirement correctly for a while, you can be income qualified, but asset unlimited. Like if you're not drawing income, but have a healthy 401k and you own the house outright and whatnot, but yet your income is low.
Saying income
So
and
is
assets
this-
are important.
Yeah, income and asset limited, yeah. It's the have you heard the ALICE, asset limited, income qualified, employed?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
This is relating to the qualification
Qualification,
again.
yeah.
Now, I've kind of mixed qualification and is it a loan or grant together. Do those intertwine? Should I allow these all to intertwine?
I don't know.
It's probably gonna be one of the same conversations to
Yeah,
get
but-
the weeds figured out.
But is it a loan or grant itself stands separate of who qualifies for
Well, that's
this.
true.
So I question whether this should be here or not. Seems like this is more, well, it's kind of bridging the gap there.
I had forgivable grants if they own or maintain the home for 5 or more years after the improvement's been made.
Okay, now I think that's gonna get up in here to loan or grant. We're talking about the design of the tool,
Mhm.
right? Okay.
Mine addressed income level. I said, you know, are we gonna establish that maximum is 120% of some medium, and is it the median, is it the village, or is it the county, you know, but again, it goes to,
Yep.
you have to have some,
You're in the qualification category,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And again, shooting at the outcome, create pride in living in a Wanakee age neighborhood.
Okay.
You don't end up with the washing machine in the front yard, you don't end up with
VBM?
just the other opposite of what I addressed.
Virgin Mary?
In the bathtub.
Context for what this is gonna help Tim with is, some of these comments are gonna be really good at laying out, let's say, the program mission statement. Kind of the text and the language about, what our aspirations are for the program. So that type of thing, that helps Tim with context that he can fit into that.
I have the, focusing on the compliance aspect, security collateral, the loan or grant, effect on credit rating, effect on the refi, effect on the participant as to what this loan or grant would do to them. Taking a secured position or second position.
Yeah, so that's not about qualification as it is, how do you summarize that statement?
How would I summarize the statement? It's compliance and the effect on the participant.
So like a compliance tracking of sorts, or a worry about how it might impact?
How it affect the person who takes out the loan, given we're gonna either have a loan or a grant or a mix, that now affects my credit rating, and it affects the possibility of me refinancing.
Right, so I would, you know what, I wanna call that care for applicant.
You're a Care Bear.
Care. I get what you're saying, so
Is your banker gonna control that by the fact that, you know, if I've already got a 70% mortgage on my house, you know, is the bank gonna control the fact that, no, they're not gonna let you borrow another $20,000?
Right.
So I think some of that isn't even our criteria. It's the marketplace will have some say on that.
this is more than just getting it into the people's hands, though. It's about caring for the people who are gonna be participating in the program to make sure there's not unintended
Correct.
consequences.
That's exactly right.
And that's what I meant by care for applicant.
Yeah, that's a.
Okay. Thanks for working through that.
So, my other challenge earlier was that we're favoring homeowners. So if we possibly thought about extending it to landlords and effectively creating a LIHTC program by saying, if you're a landlord, you qualify for this program if your renters are at or below 80% or 60% area median income for the duration of the loan or the duration of the grant or whatever. So, extend to landlords who are renting to households with 80% or less of AMI.
Okay.
So we have.
I like that. I had order occupied as my next one. But I think that would be like another, just a criteria.
Owner occupied. How to control, so what do you mean by how to control or patrol?
Like, that's just a question, like if I am owning the house today, I make these improvements, and then I rent it out in 6 months, how do we manage that?
Oh, owner becoming landlord.
Yeah,
One and the same.
Right.
Same person gets it, but then becomes landlord.
yeah,
Okay,
that's just a question, I don't
Yeah.
know how, if that's,
Yeah. got it. It probably, well, that's interesting counter to.
I know.
Yeah, well, you could, like, say you have to apply either as an owner and occupy the house for 5 years, or you're applying as a landlord and you're gonna rent to, I mean, you could have different criteria for how you fill out the loan. I think that's a problem you could fix.
Yeah, I think we're starting to define some of the
Yeah, we are.
parameters like mine. I'm
Well,
saying
this is helpful.
Age
These are-
40 plus, you know, I mean, is there an age limit where you restrict? You know, my
you're
house.
talking about the house, right,
My
not the
house
person?
is- My house is 15-some years old,
Yeah.
you know, and I've been in it 35, you know.
But it's been renovated 6 times.
Only 3.
Well, just for, let me just pull the CDA. Who thinks it'd be appropriate to actually establish an age limit on the physical property
It's
itself?
50.
That was one of my age of house.
Here, let's come,
Yeah.
yep.
I didn't have.
Does anybody not think that should be a category in one? You know, an element of eligibility?
I didn't write it down because I cheated and.
But I have one that's retain current owners of aged housing. I think it kind of goes
That's
with that.
That's a
Retain-
perspective though.
That's a goal, right?
Yeah, goal,
You
yeah.
want people who are in aged housing to be able to stay in
Yes.
and improve it.
Yes.
Okay, I think that relates to,
I would make a biased comment
on which,
on
this?
the age thing. You know, the reason you have a limit is if you have someone who has a house that is, you know, 25 years old and they're already not taking care of it, we're gonna put up money and it isn't gonna accomplish anything in terms of maintaining the neighborhood. That's a generic, statement. You can have hardships, physical illnesses and that type of thing, but we wanna make sure that if we put money out, that it has an impact full circle for us, for the member, and, if they're just not, of a personality that they're gonna take care of what they got, that's not what we're looking for.
Okay. Al, we're gonna go till they're gone.
The types of improvements that qualify: roof, siding, windows, staircase, HVAC.
Does anybody have something similar?
That's not structural,
Energy
mechanical.
efficiency preferring.
Okay, we're talking about types here, and that was up here somewhere
It's
too.
the
wasn't it?
middle in the red.
Structural, mechanical, question, landscaping, what qualifies? Yep. Okay, you have another one?
Is it mine? This is in the details. Do we pay to the contractor directly and require multiple bids or estimates?
Okay.
It's kind of what I have: administration, compliance, and program, including costs.
You're catching on here now. Who, does anybody else have something similar to that? That element of administration, which might be worth connecting to our administration, or maybe not? Contractor directly, no, it's process. Okay. David, good?
These are kind of marketing thoughts. How are we gonna present it? So how to communicate to find those in needs of the repair. So how are we gonna have outreach? We're just gonna let them find us. And then advertise it as live and work in Wanakee. An opportunity to be able to create that opportunity to live and work here.
Part of our why for doing this, right? Okay. Are you gonna make sense of this? You might have to rewatch the meeting. Al?
Application process. It's the forms, what do I gotta fill out, what do I gotta do, who do I need to contact?
Here's another one.
Building inspector and
Mine was simplify the process.
simplify
Okay, this is about process. Anything else like that? No. I'm gonna, I know we have administration, okay, administration.
Challenges, are the funds sustainable? How? Do we only disperse 20% a year so that we can go 5 years and then expect in year 6 we'll get, if it's a loan, the money back?
Does it revolve? How does it revolve?
Yeah, when,
How,
it's a term.
yep.
You have 6 people applying, you can only fund 5, can you put, does that 6th person get put on the top of the list for the next year?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Last one was just to demonstrate financial need, but there's been others that have been similar.
Demonstrate an applicant requirement that we have
Right.
proper documentation, proof, et cetera?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
This one's again, somewhat of a message or marketing: improve attractiveness of aged housing to low income. To make them, to find them, to make them aware that this is a process that they could enter a house, get it fixed up. So that they may not be, I don't know how they're gonna know about this process.
So this is let's say there's a dilapidated property that's for sale and getting no activity. You're thinking that if a potential buyer knows about this program, that might.
How do we match them?
Okay. Financial need. There's something else up here about financial.
Income level down at the bottom, around 20% of median.
Oh, income level, yeah, right. Okay. I'm getting all over the place.
I thought there was some, one of the cities did this basically, they couldn't base it on income level. So the discussion we had is anybody can apply. And the program itself could not use income level or something as the criteria for doing it or not doing it. I thought there was some discussion, someone presented something a while ago on it.
We may have, I know, we had Menasha present,
Might have been
and,
Oshkosh.
Menasha and Oshkosh, they both had pretty robust programs?
I don't think one of them, both of them, neither was based on income. That was not an issue. It's the criteria that created, not the income that created the need, or the approval process.
What's the criteria? Is it the age, type of house?
Could be the age, type of house, blighted area, the area.
Okay, I remember, they actually had different funding categories. They had a funding program that was for anyone, if it met certain goals, and then they also had a program for income qualified. And they offered different amount eligibility for the different programs. Theirs was pretty sophisticated, and had a couple pools. But I think you're right,
You
there
want
was
to put
one.
teeth in your program, because that's not, as a taxpayer, I think you're gonna really tick me off if you take a program like this and I'm looking at somebody that I know has pretty good income, and now all of a sudden he's getting
Or
a
assets.
grant or a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we asked that exact question of the guy from Menasha when he presented.
Thought we did, but I don't.
Might be worth watching that video. It was a good presentation, and we did ask a few questions after.
Yeah, we get to watch those again, actually, because we've learned a lot. You go back and you learn even more, right?
They're all up, that's when we were online, or the Zooming for all our meetings, so.
Challenge, favors homeowners, excludes renters, and we know our renters are often our lower income residents that we're trying to get into the community, get a foothold.
I think you.
Got the last one? Do I win the homework challenge here?
You do.
Yeah,
Overachiever.
yay. Very schooly.
Or verbiage.
Just a lot of words. Preserves but does not increase housing stock. So we are not adding new units. We're preserving, which is very important, but we're not gonna see an influx of.
Well, I think that was what we just said, is we have to kind of pick what we can work on now, because we know that new housing stock is going to require more money if we're gonna try and do something.
So you're admitting a program like this, it's gonna achieve some goals, but there's stuff that we wish we could do that this just isn't gonna do.
Yeah.
And
This has the capability of being so variable. It's not like you're gonna, a development or a large apartment complex that it's gonna take a lot of money for one. This is, we can parse it out as the money comes in through this process. Tim, I would really recommend a call if you know somebody in Evansville or find somebody in Evansville. It was dramatic and I didn't even comment about it. There's 7 people in this group, and 2 people started talking about, these neighborhoods look great. These are old houses, and everybody seems to be taking pride in fixing them up. And I don't know if Evansville had any kind of program, or the village, city had any influence in that, what happened there, but it was 10, 12 blocks of it. The whole interior of the town seemed to be rehabbed.
So I just want to touch upon the loan versus grant, and the argument for it being more of a grant than a loan. Not that I'm in that camp necessarily, but in theory, we give a homeowner money to improve their home. Guess what happens the next year? The real estate taxes go up, and the village now collects the increased real estate taxes, which in theory is paying back the loan.
I think, although if you're talking, $5,000 to $20,000 improvement, I don't think they're gonna see an appreciable change in their.
You guys send to the board of review, we'll adjust it.
I'm on the board of review also.
And keeping in mind that dollar the dollar that comes back in taxes is only 30%.
Yeah, this is conceptual I'm talking about.
Right, yeah, right. So this was a facilitated way to spew your ideas, your worries, your concerns, and goals. I think I got for you, Tim, exactly what we were hoping for as you work to assemble, maybe put ink on paper about what a program could look like. Would you like for your next meeting to have us present a program framework for you to react to? Would that be?
Yeah.
Definitely.
That'd be great, sure.
Okay.
You're-
All right.
And again, this presupposes that, just because this had 6 comments on the first, that was the program we're going by.
It does, although the exercise was intended to cause consensus to happen, whether you liked it or not.
I got it, I got the message.
Well, I think, Al, it had also to do with that question of what funds do we have? And when you look at some of the other things on here, where, you know, like land purchase for a land bank, we don't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
No, but for example,
Yeah.
you know, and not to pick on Veridian, but, you know, based on the demographics they're shooting at, what's to prevent the village from entering into the program that says, hey, employee A, we'll give you $10,000 to buy a home in Wanakee as part of your down payment. And that then locks that employee into the village of Wanakee in theory, because they're not a homeowner. So this now takes that off the table. That's why I'm commenting, is we've isolated simply to home improvement as opposed to any other programs such as giving down payments or on a home to make them become permanent parts of the community.
I wouldn't say this excludes that. I'd say that's staged by how much money we have. We started this discussion saying this is a way we could start with a small amount of money, build as it grows. So I don't think it excludes that.
Well,
I can-
let me share that you've not excluded anything yet.
Yeah.
We're still talking through what you do or don't want to do.
No.
Okay, I'm happy.
This is also, and we talked about this at our last meeting, this is also kind of to, what's the saying? Do something or get off the pot. So we're trying to help the CDA get into the process of doing something. That's what's happening.
I think that will be worthwhile to come back and talk about what down payment assistance would look like in the context of other down payment assistance programs within the county. You know, if we at some point in the future, and this is just me riffing, you know, did a program where we match what an employer matches, but then we also set the criteria up so that a homeowner would qualify for the Dane County homeowner assistance, that could be really powerful in terms of bringing people here. We could effectively double or triple what they could get through Dane County.
So just playing
But
off
that's
that a little
pretty
bit, with all these
complex.
programs that exist already, why don't we just hire someone to facilitate employees coming in, talking to this person, here are all the programs that are available,
Gonna fund the
as opposed to
position.
us doing all this,
Yeah.
because Act 221 already has part of what we talked about today.
I think if we were to, rather than hiring somebody, my way of going about it, if I was doing it, would be to work with human resources directors at each of the companies and provide them with a packet of information and a training so that we're not having to staff and find out where people are coming in, because they'll know where all the hires are coming from and who has a home. who
And
doesn't.
that's okay, I agree, I understand that.
Yeah.
Using the employers as the entourage to get to the employees. Now, how we do it, that's a different story, but again, just being facilitating the process where the Village of Wanakee takes on the responsibility of going to XYZ Corp and saying, here's the package. Village can either present or work through HR, but somehow giving the employees knowledge of what's out there and what they can and can't do.
Tim, I see your writing, that might be something worth looking into, and also to see if that violates any fair housing laws. I'm thinking specifically of Kohler, that's developments, when Kohler was,
And it would be reaching
Bringing
out to
employees.
businesses to give them that information so that as they're doing recruiting, they
Yeah.
become recruiters for the program
Yeah.
also. Saying,
And I would also might add, Al, that, you know, so that program already exists, we would only be embellishing it, where here we're talking about a program that we're opening the door for. So, I mean, they can already get some help through the county program now. So,
we're giving you a lot of work. All right, we've got 2 minutes left until our allotted time is up. Anyone else, or shall we turn it over? Do you guys have any parting word any assignments for us? Anything that we should be doing or thinking about?
I think there will be some questions that need to be answered from this. Because I think we can create a programming format, but I personally like Al's hanging on loan versus grant. I think that you can have both, but obviously with one, there's a quick sunset with those dollars versus the other, there isn't as quick or ever, depending upon how it's administered. But not to necessarily advocate, again, one way or the other, but I think that's a critical piece in stretching those dollars.
I think what you'll find, Tim, then when we take some of these questions and you start to do a bit of research, there's gonna be some common elements in programs like these that is gonna at least give you the answer of what's typical, how has this typically been handled?
Well, I have that answer already, but I don't.
Oh.
Yeah.
You got 1 minute left. We're gonna have to hold that to set our
No, I
teaser
can
for
tell you
next
that
time.
It's generally loans, loan programs.
All right.
Okay.
I think if Chris was here, he'd say we have time for one last motion.
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right, thanks for working through it. Good work.
Pardon?
It'd be adjourned.
David, can you stick around
Robert's
for just a
rules.
minute? Sure. If you wouldn't mind.
You like the land bank.